So welcome to Beauty of Colors podcast. Stephanie, it's great to have you on the show.
It is wonderful to be here, and I want to thank you for asking me to be here. So I am excited for this moment. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome, Stephanie. So Stephanie, tell the listeners about you and your journey in becoming Dr. Stephanie.
So my journey has been an interesting journey. And as I was in the middle of the journey, of course, I used to think, why me? And then I remembered that cartoon, like, why not you? Right. So I grew up in the South. I was a teen mom. I was pregnant at 14, had my child at 15. As a result of that, life got really strange for me. So up until that point, so my grandparents raised me in the bitter South where racism was still alive. And now I'm pregnant. So I realized, though, that if there were going to be any changes to my life or any changes for my son and I, that it depended on me, period. Okay. Things happen, and I've learned to uh, not call them good or bad. I just call them lessons that I was supposed to learn and live by those. So with that, I was able to graduate high school. I graduated college in 2.5 years because I knew that my son needed me to be on the fast track. And evidently that was the message from the universe too. So I went to University of Arkansas in Little Rock, and then everything was going well, and we relocated to Florida. I got married, relocated to Florida, and then got divorced. And husband took everything and then I lost my job. So now, fast forward, I'm homeless. I have a kid at Jackson State University that I'm trying to keep there. So challenge number 2, I had to figure that out too. So I ended up, the universe ended up sending me to Chicago, in which case then I was able to find a really good job that literally sort of just landed in my path. I started looking at life as not necessarily challenges, but things that I needed to learn in order to experience the things that I've been asking the universe to experience. So to get to where I needed to go, there needed to be some lessons. So once I started doing that, and once I started to take the focus out of that he did me wrong story that we like to do, they did me wrong, and just focus it on what I needed to do, things began to move pretty quickly. So then I got great job, got company that paid for an executive MBA, University of Chicago, and then I went and got a Ph.D. And my son did graduate from Jackson State University just because I decided that I was going to find the good in all of this, and I was going to make sure that I was going to start the day happy, end the day happy, and whatever happened, I was going to look for the lessons, the message in what happened, instead of playing that pity party that they done me wrong. So that's how I got there.
So Stephanie, what was the main thing, like the main thing that transformed your life into the woman you are today?
I realized a couple of things. There's a quote that I live by, and that is, don't let anyone tell you what you cannot do, because they don't know enough about you to know what you can and cannot do. I live by that. So people will give you input. And so and it's what you do with the input that's important. So you take out the things that are useful from that input, and then you just set the other stuff on the shelf. There's no need in getting upset about it or about what they said, because when you're trying to actually create a better life, you don't have time to spend on, they did me wrong, they told me something wrong, they don't like me. You don't have time. That's valuable time that you're wasting. So take from it what you need to learn and use that, and then just discard the rest.
So when failure is not an option, Stephanie, what can we do about it?
So
Yeah.
I always say, for me, failure was not an option. So I I had this son, and he needed to do well in life, and I needed to do well. So failure was not an option. So what I decided to look at is change my point of view of failure. Okay. So there are lessons that we learn, and we learn them along the way. And when you sit down and really think about the things that you've asked the universal presence, that's what I call my infinite kindness, God. When you've asked for things, some of these things you have no way of knowing how to get there. Okay. And since you don't know how to get there, something has to happen to show you the way. So then here are these stepping stones. Okay. They're not lessons, as we like to call them lessons, they're stepping stones. So you're going to learn something with every decision you make, and you're going to learn something with every step that you take. So cherish that. Don't look at it as good or bad. Look at it as a lesson learned. Now I know how to do this because I didn't know what I was doing. I thought I knew what I was doing, but I don't know. And I've learned something. So that's what I do. And failure is not an option. You've got to find the good in every single thing that's happening in your life.
Wow,
Because
nice.
where you focus,
Mm-hmm.
it's where you put your attention. And where your attention is, your energy flows there. And where your energy is flowing is what you're going to create more of.
Nicely said, Stephanie. Your website is called The Champagne Connection. What led you in choosing that name?
I know, I'm asked that all the time. So I had a really good friend at the time who was a Unity minister.
Mm-hmm.
And we were sitting around talking about things and lessons, because at that point, I'd been asked to write a column about some of the struggles that I've had and how, and what I learned from them. And she said, well, you're going to have to start a company. And as we were talking about it, she says, Spirit just said, call it the Champagne Connection. Champagne stands for something really great, something really fantastic. So life is too short to drink champagne, which means life is too short to not to have every single thing that you want and things that you think you need in this life, in this world, and right now. So that's where the term champagne came from. And the connection is when I work with people, I help them connect to the good things in their life that they're trying to create.
Okay, I like the name. I had to ask. I'm like, Champagne Connection. I need to ask. So you're a best-selling author. Tell us a little bit about your books, the genre, and where can the listeners get in touch with you? Do you have any speaking engagements? Do you have any resources on your site?
So I am the author of 6 books, okay? And there's even a story behind that, because I never set out to write a book ever. It's just that, you go in a quiet time, and I recommend people meditate a couple times a day. I recommend that they create a brag list 5 to 7 things that you have accomplished that you can absolutely brag about, and keep that with you. And then do some worthiness journaling. So in that process, the universe says, "Oh, you're going to write a book." I says, "Oh, no, 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 no." So I said that 5 times. Okay, I've written 5 books. So the most recent book is a book for parents, and not only just parents, but aunts, uncles, close friends who have young children in their life. And that is Self-Esteem, Your Superpower: Ways Parents Can Help Children Improve Their Self-Esteem. It's a short book because I know parents are really busy, but it's got a lot of tips that people don't normally think about when it comes to building self-esteem. So I try to keep things uplifted, fun, and so that people would want to do it. You don't want to sit down and do all the drudgery. You want to have some fun. So we make sure that you have some fun. Now, the book before that was a book based upon the principles that I use to change my life. And that title is Creating a Masterpiece from a Master Mess. Because I think I was a master mess. And I use simple techniques. And generally, all of my techniques are what I call no cost and high yield. And you can find those on my website. You can find those on Amazon. As a matter of fact, any place where books are available, you can find them.
Okay, so Stephanie, when did you write your first book? What year was that? You wrote your
Oh gosh, 1999 was my first book,
Mhm.
and the book is entitled "Is Anybody Listening?" And I was journaling about my actual journey. And as I started writing the book, I realized it wasn't that no one was listening. It was I wasn't listening. I wasn't listening to that inner voice that we have in ourselves. It's already there. It's got the answers we need already if we listen. But sometimes I discovered in my own journey that in listening to that voice, it wanted me to do things that were so out of character for me till I was afraid to do it. It was only when I started to do it and realized it didn't have to be perfect, I just needed to do it, that things began to open up for me. So that was the first book. Then the second book was called Embracing Life's Lessons. And in that, it talked about some other lessons that I learned and how I embraced them and made sure that I embodied them so that I could live the life I want. And all of my books have been focused on that, to live a better life, to use techniques that don't cost much. Because when you're rolling through the internet, everybody can help you change your life for for four for four figures, right? Everybody can.
Mhm.
But we need to start with recognizing how our voice sounds. What is it telling us to do? We need to know first, what is it we want to do before we even engage in someone else to help us? What do you want to do? So I talk a lot about that. What do you want to do? How do you love yourself? How do you heal yourself? How you can care for yourself? How do you find your purpose? And finding your purpose, there are some cool techniques that don't take you long and they're free. I think we're just afraid that we might just find our purpose. Because once you find it, you have awakened your purpose, and trust me, it is not going to let you rest until you get on that path. So I think that's why we can't find our purpose, because we know
Yeah.
once we wake it up, it's not going anywhere.
It's gonna hunt you.
That's right. It is going to hunt you. Yes, it is. So when you find it, you say, welcome to my awareness. Now let's get to work, because I know you're going to never sleep now.
So are all your books memoirs and self-help books? Are they
Yes, they're
okay?
memoirs and self-help books. Yes.
Excellent. Sounds
I
great.
figured it was enough of the other stuff out there on the market, and that people needed to see people who look like me
Mhm.
actually using a process to change their life. Sometimes we just don't see that, so we don't think that it can work for us. You don't have to be rich. You don't even have to have any money to start. That's not a requirement. The
Yeah.
requirement is just to start to take the steps that
Mhm.
your heart, your mind, your soul is telling you. And trust me, the money will follow.
So Stephanie, what is your website again? Can you say it again for the listeners?
The website is champagneconnection.com. And I always have a little joke. So it's Champagne Connection, and that's no S on the end. Because
Mhm.
if you go to Champagne Connections, you're going to
Mhm.
be shocked. Okay. So it's champagneconnection.com.
Uh-huh.
That's the website. My email is SEWC, which are my initials, at champagneconnection.com.
Okay.
And on the website, there are some tools that you can download. There's some free tools. One of my favorite is a personal SWOT analysis, which is where you actually go through your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And then if you like that one, then there's one where you can actually identify what your values are. Because a lot of times people just don't know what their strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats are. So there are three things that you can download there. Some of the books are available, and I have a podcast, A Sip of Inspiration. So you can see that through the website also.
Okay. So do you have any last words for the listeners about staying in the moment and planning for success?
I just want everyone listening to know that you are more powerful than you know. You are more capable than you believe. And you don't always have to have all the answers. All you've got to have is the spirit to move forward to where you want to be. Trust me, the answers will show, and the steps that you need to take will show up also.
Wow, nicely said, Stephanie. Well, Stephanie, thank you for being on Beauty of Colors podcast.
Thank you for inviting me. I had a blast. This is wonderful.